Okay, so 40 years.
40 years. Are you recording me?
I'm videoing you.
You're not going to show this video, are you?
Might put it on, put a little bit of it on.
I'm really shy.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
40 years, yes.
Pull your mask up, though. We want to set a good example. I know I'm told when I have pictures and stuff where somebody doesn't have a mask on, don't use them. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's been 40 years, December 8th. I started off, actually, when I applied, I started as a medical receptionist. And I was a receptionist for 5 years for the medical team, which I enjoyed. I got to go to all the migrant camps, to the trailer. I worked in the Woodbridge trailer, and in Tracy we had a trailer too in front of the housing authority before any of the sites were stable sites, non-mobile. So it was a really good experience. I got to meet a lot of people that went from state to state following the work, and I enjoyed it. I got into dental.
Well, I was going to say, why did you? What were what were you doing? Had you?
I was taking night classes to become a MA.
Where?
It was called. It was a vocational. I can't think of the name of it, but it was downtown Stockton, Weber Avenue. It's where the Children's Museum is now.
Oh, okay.
But there was a vocational school that you can go, sort of like the UEI.
Have you lived in Stockton your entire life?
I have.
You have, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to Franklin High.
Oh, okay.
And graduated there.
Mm-hmm. But you always knew you wanted to.
I wanted to be in the medical field. I knew that. One of the things that drew me to community medical centers is it was first called Agricultural Workers Health Center, and my family worked in agriculture. So I happened to, because downtown Stockton was where the shopping area was, JCPenney's and things like that. So I happened to walk in front of the clinic. I looked, I go, oh, I didn't know there was a clinic here. And I read Agricultural Workers Health Center. I'm like, I'm going to apply. And I did, and I was hired as a receptionist. So I did that for 5 years. And at times when the dental team needed help, like scheduling patients, registering patients, they always asked if I would help. So I'm like, sure. I was usually at all the other clinics. I was there usually Fridays. So they would assign me to help them. And so I did that for a while. And then when a position opened up, the dentist, who was the first female dentist here in Stockton, her name was Dr. Athena Dupart Meacham. She started showing me how to, the surfaces of the oral cavity and things like that. And I kind of found it interesting. So when the position opened up, she asked that, if I was interested in becoming their dental receptionist. So I said, okay. So that's how I got into the dental field. I kind of felt bad because I still liked going out to the clinics, but, it was a new experience for me and I learned. So I learned how to do pre-authorizations, working with patients. And then the opportunity came. We got a new provider because Dr. Dupart moved to Michigan. So we had another dentist come on. So I met a lot of different providers, very nice, and they've all been very helpful. So he asked that if I was interested in going to get my x-ray license to take dental x-rays. And I said, sure. So they sent me to Sac City College. It was a 2 weekends. And I took patients, which were my family, took x-rays on them, took the test, and got my x-ray certificate. So in the morning, I would do all my, pre-authorizations, pull charts, verify appointments, file charts. And then in the afternoon, I would switch with one of the other assistants. And so that's how I started learning the back office.
And this was all dental stuff that you were doing, yeah.
Mhm.
So for like the last 35 years, you've been doing dental, huh?
Yes.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Assisting, I would say 30. So then when I was kind of front office, back office, and as we added another dentist, we hired more staff. I eventually ended up being full-time assistant, and we hired 2 receptionists to cover the front. I kind of still, the dentist, Dr. Hayek, who asked me, to become a full-time assistant, still had me oversee the front desk with authorizations, making sure that, they were kept up and patients were being called. So it was kind of floating back and forth among, doing assisting duties. So when our medical team moved to Channel, that left dental there in the building on California Street by ourselves. And that's when they hired a dental manager. And that manager was me. Because Dr. Hayek and we had our dental director, Dr. Miller, at the time, because Dr. Hayek became part-time after he wasn't full-time. So Dr. Miller was our dental director, and they met and they decided to promote me since I knew front and back. So that's where I got into management. Mm-hmm.
Dental is, it's something, and I know about this from having been a reporter, and it's overlooked as something that really people who don't have a lot of economic means
Mm-hmm.
miss out on, especially their kids. And I mean, so you were really performing, and the whole dental side of this performs a really valuable service for people who probably wouldn't get this care without it. Is that important to you?
It's really, really important. I know that when I was still working as a receptionist, I would go to the camps, and even though I wasn't in dental, I would kind of help out. I would let the patients know, like when I was at Matthews Camp or Harney Lane Camp, I'd let them know, hey, we have dental services at our main office. And some of them did come. It was kind of hard for them because when you're working in the camps, the only day that they really go is Sundays, right, to do family things. And it's really hard for them to take a day off to come in to see the doctor or especially dental. Back then, normally seeing a dentist, you would only see a dentist when you had pain. It wasn't to keep up with exams and cleanings and things like that. And that's one of the changes that I've noticed working here at CMC is how it's changed. It's no longer only to go to the dentist when you have pain. And it was sad to see that a lot of them ended up having extractions. But I'm kind of happy to see now that the education in the schools, going into the schools and showing the children how to take care of their teeth, the importance of brushing their teeth, has really changed.
So let me go back to when you started. You were already a high school graduate,
Mm-hmm.
and you were tell me again. You were taking.
I signed up to take night classes.
Right,
To
over
become
by
an MA.
where the Children's
I
Museum.
can't remember. Yeah, it's where the
It's okay.
Children's Museum. I couldn't remember what it's called.
That's
I know it was
fine.
a vocation. It was like you signed up, you did your
Mhm.
hours and did your training, and then they would put you out to
Were
facilities.
your parents, were they immigrants from?
My father was in the military for 20 years, so he didn't retire until I was already almost in high school.
I was just wondering, was it important to you that you were serving migrant workers?
It was,
Can you talk
because
about that? And
my grandfather, his business was in agriculture. He was a contractor, so he would go to the different farmers and get contracts to work their fields, and he had his own crew of employees. So it was family run. And in our family, everyone worked. So I was 10 years old selling lunches on the back of my grandfather's truck.
Mhm.
So I grew up in agriculture, working in the asparagus, tomatoes, different types of crops that my grandfather worked. He even had contracts in Dixon. So when we were in Dixon, my grandmother, they ran like a boarding camp. So the workers would stay there. And my grandmother was the cook with my mom and my aunts. And then we would, like, my job was cleaning every day in the men's barracks. So we would sweep and mop, clean the bathroom, things like that. Or helped in the kitchen, peel potatoes, you know. It was a family run business.
So I assume you didn't come here to CMC or agricultural workers thinking that you were going to spend your entire working life here, did you?
No, I didn't, because I wanted to go back to school. And but then the opportunity, you know, I had a great opportunity staying here with CMC, with you know, having the providers that I worked with kind of show me hands-on. So I was already the office manager when I decided I wanted to get get certified, become a registered dental assistant. So I didn't have to, but I did. So I just ordered her book, read it, and took the test, the written test and the practical test, and I passed the first time.
Could you ever have imagined how CMC has grown from the organization that you arrived at in 1980, that it would be this big sprawling
I never imagined that it was going to grow as much as it has. We only had one dental office up until 2015 when we opened at Waterloo. I always recommended to have a second office or to be in the schools, but at the time I guess it wasn't possible to do. But I'm really happy to see that we are now and how much we've grown and opened other offices where the need is. Like in Tracy, there's no dental office, and I wish we could have been in Manteca, but I guess the other FQHC beat us.
Oh.
But no, I've seen growth that has.
Can I give you this real quick?
I'm in an interview. Edit that out.
Yeah.
To see where we're at now is it's really important to me, because there's a need for the community. I mean, there really is. Patients, even when we did the shutdown in March, we were seeing patients just come in. We would just tell them to come in. The first week, we were seeing maybe 8. After 2 weeks, there was like 16 patients a day. We weren't scheduling, just walk in. They would come in. And a lot of them, all we could do were extractions. And those that wanted to have a root canal done, well, we weren't doing root canals at the time. We could only do emergency. So there's still a big need out there. Patients, even now, you know, coming in for TAs. And I mean, they kind of look to us, you know, it's changed a lot. It's
TAs,
changed.
what are TAs?
Toothaches.
Toothaches, okay.
Toothaches. Mm-hmm.
So you weren't doing cleanings way back last March? You stopped doing cleanings?
When we first shut down, we were only seeing emergency services.
Mm-hmm.
So it was toothaches only. And most of them the majority ended up in extractions.
Do you plan to go for another 10 years and get to 50?
You know, I really enjoy working. I work long hours because that's how I feel. You know, I really appreciate everything that CMC does for the community. whether you're in medical or dental or podiatry, and it doesn't matter. I still feel we're one big team, and we, you know, this is what we're here for. And I still feel strongly about that. I think it's going to be very, very hard for me to retire. I think I'll still want to be active somewhere, maybe as a board member. I don't know, but I don't even want to think about retirement right now. I don't. I enjoy being here. I love what I do. I love the patients we see. I've had really good experiences with patients, really appreciating everything we've done for them. Some sad because there's been a few patients that were diagnosed with cancer and we found it orally. And had they come in sooner, it could have made a difference in their life. So it's sad to know that some of them, didn't come in sooner and had a better outcome. So that was sad. We've had a few patients. We had a young patient where we made dentures, and the patient was only 8 years old. Patient was never, when she was developing, she was born, she had no dentition.
What does that mean?
No teeth were developed. She was born with no primary teeth or permanent teeth.
How long ago was that?
That was back in the 90s.
So,
And
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it was back in the 90s. Dr. Miller actually was the provider that made those dentures for the child. The parents had gone to numerous dental offices for help. And the child was really thin, very shy, very withdrawn. And then Dr. Miller said, well, someone that young may not tolerate dentures in their mouth, but if you're willing to try, we'll do it. And we did. We made the dentures, and I think the whole office cried the day that we delivered them because we showed the child, after they were in the mouth, and the parents were just like so appreciative, and the little girl smiled. We asked her to smile, and she seen the teeth in there, and you should have just seen her eyes. She looked at her parents, and it was like the greatest thing. They were gonna move, so we did tell them as she got older, she would have to, get different sets of dentures to grow with her development. And she never came back, but I know that she left very happy. She came back for adjustments and stuff, but after that, because they were from a different country, I can't remember where they were from, but that was something to see. I never thought I'd see anything like that.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
They were tiny, tiny little dentures that they looked like a play set, But I know that we had pictures, but it was so long ago, and that's when we had paper charts. I can't even think of her name, but they may have been probably destroyed because it's been so long ago.
Yeah, so you have stories like that.
Yeah, that kind of makes me cry a little bit because if you could, there's only a few ladies here that witnessed that. My team lead, one other girl that during the time, they've been here a long time as well, that witnessed the delivery of those dentures.
So have you known, I know Gloria Kishi reached 40 years a year ago. Have you known her all those years? Or?
Gloria, I have. I met Gloria when I started working here, but Gloria's brother was good friends with my uncle. How they met is my uncle was in the Navy, and he had an accident and broke his neck and became paralyzed from the chest down. And Gloria's brother had some kind of accident, and he was paralyzed as well. So here in town, there was a group called the Stockton Wheelers, and they used to play basketball, and it was guys in wheelchairs, different circumstances, and that's how they became friends. So I kind of knew of her, but I didn't actually meet her until I started working here.
And who's the other one that's been here a long time? Is it not Minerva? But isn't there a third person who's been here right around 40 years? Or am I mistaken?
It used to be, Minerva Arellano, she just retired the year before last.
Oh,
She was grandfathered in because CMC took over the clinics that she worked at, and she already had been with them for a long period of time. Mhm.
so anyway, retirement's not on your immediate horizon.
No,
It's a ways off.
it's a ways off.
Yeah.
As long as I can still get up
Mm.
and bring myself to work, I'll be here.
Mm.
That's going to be hard.
Yeah.
That's going to be hard.
Well, that's great. Tell them they